He is the author of the book Predator's Paradise and founder of the Leg Up Project, and they don't like me because I'm a living example of systemic failures. I am actually living proof of what happened and the 28 names. I actually grew up on the streets of Sydney, and I actually witnessed these men coming in their cars to the wall and to the park and picking up children. I gave evidence to the Wood-Royal Commission. When they came and see me at the Wood-Royal Commission, I thought finally I'm going to get my voice heard. After years and years of being through abuse, depression, addiction and trauma, I thought they're finally going to hear what I have to say. They said, Glenn, this is your opportunity to speak to the corruption, the police of King's Cross who are covering up the pedophilia in King's Cross and the multiple children that have died, like my girlfriend. So I gave evidence to the Wood-Royal Commission and I told them my story. And what ends up happening is they seal my file. And then I go through 4 fucking trials against my abusers. One by one, I take pedophile up to pedophile, high profile pedophiles to court, and I put them in jail. And you know what they did to me then? They gave them 18-month sentences. What a fucking slap in the face. Yeah. Sorry for my language, but what an absolute slap in the face. Your value, Glenn, is 18 months. And the second one, the first one, Paul Chetwynd Jones, he got 18 months. There were multiple victims, and each one of them was to run concurrent, which means that for 20 18-month sentences, he only done 18 months. That's a slap in the face to every single child raised on the streets and gone through this trauma. So I go through it again with a guy named Ken Fogarty, and he gets 18 months. And then I go through it again with a guy named Grant Leroy Morris, who ran the refuge and was the head of Enzo Insurance, and he gets 2 years, 8 months. And then my main abuser, Simon Davies, who told me as a boy I'd never get justice, I'd never write my book, I was a heroin addict, I'd be dead by the age of 21. He flees to another country where he uses the statute of limitations in another country to negate 13 of 18 charges, to take out 2 of 4 victims. So 2 victims will never get justice because our system allows people that are predators to go offshore into Europe and use their laws, statute laws, to negate crimes in our country. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. There needs to be a blanket agreement with every country in the world that when a child is abused, all bets are off, man. It doesn't matter where in the fucking world you go, put them on that plane, send them back and hold them accountable for these crimes. Because what you get is, I am a product of this environment. I am a product. And what happens is hurt people. And that became my story. I started doing armed robberies. I started robbing dealers. I started fighting anyone that wanted to fight because I had so much anger in my body because hurt people. And then in 2015, they called me up again and they said, Glenn, we're so sorry about what happened to the Wood-Royal Commission, but we've got another Royal Commission now into institutional abuse. You can tell your story about being raised in orphanages, in refuges and in Darrick Boys Home. You can tell them about how you were abused again, how I went into foster care and I'm placed into a house with 9 adults, placed into a bedroom with 3 adult men, 2 with prior convictions for pedophilia, and I'm put into that bedroom and systemically abused for my entire stay. So I get the courage, and it takes a lot of courage to go forth again after being burnt over and over. But I do it because I believe they're finally going to hear our story, and Australia's going to finally get to hear the truth of the systemic failures in this country about the abuses that have been held by people in positions of power. Yeah. High-profile men travelling to King's Cross who believe these are fathers that have children, have wives. They're school principals, they're teachers, they're politicians, they're movie stars, they're the people you don't expect who think, oh, it's okay, I've got a lot of money. I'll just go to King's Cross and I'll buy me a little child. And then what happens is they take them to rooms that are run by gangsters and these gangsters film it, and then they're not only abusing children, but they're now compromised, which means that their corruption gets worse. So Johnny covers up, everybody's covering everybody's ass. Yeah, fully. And then they say to us, right, in the Royal Commission, we're sealing the files because we're afraid that we will lose faith in the judiciary system. Bro, that happened fucking years ago. We lost faith in the judiciary system a long time ago. Do you know how you restore faith? With transparency and honesty. That's right. That's it. No matter how the cards fall. Just be honest and open. Absolutely. Because what that does is that allows us to heal. Yeah. But it hasn't done that to me. They suppressed my file, and it was only because a current affair who stood up in my last case and said, hey, do you want your file suppressed? And I said, fuck no, I don't. And the court's saying to me, Glenn, the reason we're suppressing your file is to protect you. You ain't protecting me from shit, man. You ain't protecting me at all. Australia needs to hear these stories, absolutely, as painful as they are, so that these things don't happen any further. so these things don't happen in the future. There's men out there and women out now who have been through abuse and they don't speak up because they're afraid. We've been taught or drilled into us as kids, don't dob, snitches get stitches. That mentality allowed my abusers to go free for 35 years. That mentality allowed my abusers to continue to abuse, and abuse. So every time you tell your story, you might give just a little bit of information that collaborates someone else's story, and it might just get closure for someone else. So I advise everybody to find your voice and find your courage, because your voice is your superpower. Absolutely your superpower.
That's right.
I spent so many years in addiction. I allowed my traumas of my childhood to steal my life. It literally stole my life. I sat on the lounge feeling sorry for myself in victim mode. That don't happen no more. Today I've taken control, I've taken power, and I will not be silent. And to this day, I'm one that's never been financially compensated, because I won't accept fucking redress. I think redress to me is an insult. You know what I mean? 150k, Glenn, you sign this bit of paper and it's, fuck you, bro. That's not going to change what I feel in my heart.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I am suing the government for the systemic failures, and I don't have faith in that either. But we'll see how it plays out. You know what I mean? What I do know is there are people out there rorting the redress scheme, and it seems to be people who are being unfairly enriched that haven't been abused, while real victims of these crimes are falling through the cracks. That's a fucking tragedy. That's a prime example of the government that we have, that throws money at things without brains or trust or finding out what the actual Australian people want. We've allowed so many people to come into our country, we don't know if we're fucking Arthur or Martha anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the truth.
What is happening to our country?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, my name's Glenn Fisher. As you know, I'm the author of the book Predator's Paradise. I've turned my life around now, and I go down to the streets and I try and help others, and I reach out to people who got trauma, because I'm a firm believer that addiction and alcoholism is a secondary symptom to actual trauma. Trauma is the underlying impacts of addiction, and when we start addressing people's trauma, then we can start dealing with things like homelessness, addiction, and mental health. Mental health, I watched an absolute epidemic on the streets at the moment of people on the streets with mental health issues, because the money created an NDIS scheme, which again is a freaking raw and a joke, which is enriching people at the top but not those at the bottom, whilst people are walking around the streets suffering with mental health issues. And as a person that works on the streets, who's empathetic and has a heart, it fucking hurts my very soul. Yeah, it literally hurts my soul. When I sit down and I talk to somebody and I hear their story and I go, bro, you are me. The only difference between you and me is our circumstances. I've now got my shit together, and I'm trying everything in my heart to try and instill in my heart into their heart. But it sounds simple, it's not. It's actually hard, because people are broken. People are absolutely broken, and a lot of it's because of the systemic failures of our country. Yeah, anyway, guys, thank you for listening to me. Remember my name, Glenn Fisher!
Yeah!